Welcome to the Astrology and Spirituality Show with Elisa and Patrick for week commencing the 14th of June. Now, this is one of those weeks that comes along in astrology occasionally, which is a bit more challenging, to be honest. But there is a real bright spark of energy that emerges right at its end. And first of all, we'd just like to dip into that Hermetic wheel, because this week it's a continuation, isn't it, of one of the hardest cards in tarot, which of course is the Ten of Swords. That's very much to do with your back sort of bowing under a lot of mental worry,
I can just feel like you're really bogged down with life's worries, life's challenges. Maybe you feel like people are not, on your side in some way, and it is quite an intense and heavy energy. But next week we're moving into a much lighter, much more beautiful card.
A card which is our kind of symbol card, and that's the Two of Cups, so we're going to be really excited to tell you about that next time. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do this week is put a bit more emphasis on a tarot card for the week from Elisa, rather than using an oracle card. So are you going to shuffle the cards now?
Yeah, so we're going to use the Rider-Waite deck because they're quite traditional. So it really brings in those real, solid meanings of what the tarot cards represent. So let's give them a shuffle.
So, drum roll.
And the card that comes up for us is the Seven of Swords.
Watch out, there's a thief about.
Watch out, there's a thief about. This kind of does really go with that Ten of Swords energy. There's no getting away from it this week, it seems. The Seven of Swords is about someone taking something from us. So this could be a physical item. This could be somebody taking our money or our resources. Or
pinching an idea. Taking credit.
Taking credit for something that you've done that, they're stealing that from you. It could be that someone is stealing our energy, though, this week. So we've just got to be very aware of who we're sharing ideas with, who we're sharing items with, and who we're sharing our energies with.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So let's do another card. What about if I pick it this time,
okay,
just so you can break away from the worry of those swords? Of course, swords are air, so it's just about logic. And what the tarot card does really just gives us a bit more of an idea of what we need to look out for. It doesn't necessarily mean what's going to dominate, it's just to be watchful about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see what we get. So another drum roll. There we go. And let's see.
Oh, that's beautiful. So we've got a major arcana card that Patrick has pulled. So it has, significant meaning. The Temperance card is about finding that inner balance within ourselves. I think we've said with this card in videos gone by that balance doesn't always mean something is equal. It's what we need in our lives right now.
That's a brilliant observation.
Perhaps we need to be a little bit more social if we haven't been, or perhaps we need to focus more on our health and well-being. Just finding out what is good for us, what is going to give us the most clarity, the most peace of mind.
So whatever might be out of alignment for us as an individual, maybe try to just find that inner tuning.
Yeah.
Fantastic, that's great. So you might be thinking, so what makes this week so hard? Well, it's just simply that Saturn and Uranus come into an exact square on Monday. This last happened in February. They've broadly been in contact in a frustrating way since the second week of January. They're going to come out of this square around about the 28th of July, but it is going to be repeated the last 5 weeks of the year, and then again exactly in December. If we think that Saturn's about traditionality, it's about stability, structure, boundaries, but it can be about limitations, and Uranus is a fresh energy, it's electric, it wants to make things happen quickly, so the need for us to create variety or stimulation has obviously been limited by COVID rules and regulations. And I think that aside, many people, but particularly fixed signs of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo and Scorpio. And if you're born within the first half, or you have personal planets in the first half of any of those signs, you may have experienced quite a lot of sleeplessness, restless legs, migraines, headaches, irritability, because there is such a limitation on the need for Uranus just to flex and flow quickly. And because they're both in fixed signs, that's also adding to the sense of frustration. So I think that could peak this Monday. And we also have the Sun squaring with Neptune through much of the week, which can be a very draining and enervating angle, because the Sun in Gemini is about lively discussion. Neptune in Pisces is watery, so it can dissolve the clarity of the Sun in Gemini. So there can be mixed messages coming to us. Maybe we're not quite getting the movement around communication we want. And of course, we still have Mercury retrograde. And then on Sunday, Jupiter goes into retrograde as well. So that's a very significant development. It's going to be in retrograde in the sign of Pisces initially. So my prediction there is I do feel we are going to see some restrictions coming back around sea and air travel. Jupiter governs travel, but obviously because it is the co-ruler of the water sign of Pisces, and that's where Jupiter is now, it doesn't take much imagination to know that anything to do with the transportation of goods or people by sea might well be limited over the next few weeks, because it is, of course, then going to go back into Aquarius. Also, Mars is in a quincunx with Jupiter this week. Mars is in the proud sign of Leo, where it's magnificent, very desirous of social interaction. But I think with Jupiter being in that watery sign of Pisces, it's just saying not to rush into situations without careful consideration. But there is a gorgeous link between Venus and Neptune at the end of this week. If you have a date, or you have a connection with someone, or you meet up with like-minded people, or you're a very artistic person, it could be an inspiring weekend to behold, that's for sure. Now, unfortunately, we haven't had any words of the week suggested for this week. So what we've done is we've got the Thought for the Day jar out. We've refreshed it with about 6 new keywords. I'm going to shake it. There's the jar there. The lovely Kilner jar, very traditional brand. And Elise, if you'd like to pick a word of the week.
The word for the week.
But send them in on this week's show, please. Do suggest what you'd like us to discuss. And right, it is one of the new words.
It is one of the new words. I can't read it. What is it?
Lisa can't read my writing, which is not a surprise. I used to send my mum postcards when I went on holiday, and when I get back to her place, she'd go, "Yeah, what you saying here?"
It's kind of like runes.
It's charity.
Oh right, sorry.
So there is a big push for a fundraiser for Yemen at the moment, due to starvation of children particularly. So I think that's one that we could all be mindful of. And of course, getting any kind of help to India at the moment also could be something great to do. Of course, it is a bit of a burning topic in this country at the moment, in the UK, because the government have decided to breach their own law. So enshrined in law is that Britain would give a certain amount of state aid to developing countries. And we've actually had a rebellion by Tory MPs outraged at the injustice of this, and it will cost lives. And of course there will be other people who think, well look, Britain's suffering, Britain should put Britain first. And we do tend to get this polarity between people who see themselves as citizens of the world and people who see themselves within a particular border. Now, that doesn't change the fact that I've just been watching England play football. They've won, and I'm absolutely delighted. So I can be nationalistic about certain things, but around things like aid, I do feel that if we are in a position to help countries despite the cost of the COVID outbreak, if we can help people, I feel that we should, but that might not be your opinion, so please share how you feel. Elisa, what's your opinion?
I agree with you on this. I feel like...
I agree with Nick.
I agree with Nick. If we can help in any area of our lives, then we should help. It's kind of like if we are that bystander who just sort of watches on with our phone, filming an incident happening. In some ways that can be good because you get things on tape, and that's, can be helpful in this day and age. But I think it's good to sort of get involved if we can help with something, rather than talking about just how we can help. It's actually practically doing something.
Even if it's just a few pennies or cents in the charity box in the supermarket as we're going out, we're not going to really miss that money, and that can make a difference. Of course, a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to give to charities because it all gets soaked up in administration costs. And I also have a friend who runs a charity shop for one of Britain's most famous charities, who I will keep nameless at this stage, and I can absolutely assure you they haven't got a clue how to run retail, and my mate could make a much better job of it if she was the national boss. And so they don't make the most of their chances, and of course there has been controversies about the conduct of aid workers in overseas states in terms of sexual propriety and stuff like this. The thing is, any community will never be perfect. There will always be rogues. There will always be people who are not as good. Whether it's in a local street, a local village, town, city, neighbourhood, you'll always find people who are more selfish. But for me, I feel that, we have immense wealth in some ways in the Western world, but of course there is a lot of poverty as well, and it's a disgrace how food banks have become such a necessary feature of life in Britain. I can't speak so much for America, but it is right that we should also be mindful of those who are less fortunate in our own country, but I don't feel that we should be discriminatory about where we show charity. So that's our take.
And we can all find ourselves in positions of hardship in our lives,
which we both have.
Sometimes these things can come from nowhere for a lot of people, so we as much as doing things for other people, it's about, in my view, I do believe that the good does come around eventually. I know that's sometimes hard for people.
Karma doesn't always come around proportionately, it seems, doesn't it?
But I think, if we can help, then we should help.
Yeah, that's lovely, Lisa. Right, well, okay, so we didn't also have someone write in and give their details for the free birthday reading. So what I did was I looked back a few weeks to find the first person I could find who was near to this time. And so the winner is Tanya A, because obviously we're being a bit more careful about revealing identities. And Tanya was born in San Juan in Puerto Rico on the 4th of May 1968, so that makes you a lovely monkey. And you were born at 1:45 a.m, Tanya. So, as ever, I haven't really had a lot of chance to look at this. So, just while Elisa was setting the camera up, the first thing that strikes me about your chart is that you've got Jupiter in Leo, and it's in the 7th house of relating, but it's right on your descendant. So, I think that you're someone who has a kind of generosity of spirit. Jupiter is very much to do with giving, and can be to do with fundraising, charities, donations. Its rulership of Sagittarius is very much in keeping with higher philosophies. Its rulership of Pisces very much to do with spiritual caring. So I think having Jupiter on your descendant would make you a lovely person in the way you relate to others. You've also got an Aquarius ascendant, which again means that I think that you're someone with a consciousness about higher ideals. So you've got Jupiter, the move in Jupiter in the sky, even though it goes into that retrograde, it's actually going to be in your first house now for some time, for much of next year as well as this year, because it's not going to go back into your 12th house. So this can be a time when you're initiating new things, I think, with Jupiter's help. Your midpoint is in Gemini, so you're a bubbly person. So that gives you a midpoint that's air, an ascendant that's air, but of course your sun is in the sign of Taurus, and therefore you have Uranus right on top of your sun at the moment in the 3rd house. So you may have really been affected by this square between Saturn and Uranus. And I would suggest, therefore, that you have been feeling quite restless. And because Saturn is in your 12th house, some psychological issues, a lack of trust, maybe someone around you hasn't been as dependable or reliable or even honest as you would like, and you may have found out about that situation suddenly or third hand or by some deep analysis. Also in your perfections, the year you're in is a perfection that's very much to do with self-care. It's the 6th house, but also providing services to others. So when you were born, Saturn was very close to your North Node in the 2nd house. So maybe you've had to scrap a little bit in terms of your foundations and also your own personal finances. But you do have Mars conjunct Mercury in the 3rd house in Taurus. So I think when you're confident about your viewpoint, I think you could be someone very authoritative, and you could work with technology, but the chances are you definitely work with people, because having the Sun, Mercury and Mars in the 3rd house, very Gemini-like, and your midpoint in Gemini, suggests that you need to use your intellectual faculties quite a lot, but your midpoint is in the 4th house, so home is going to be very important to you. But in a lovely context, you have Venus in Taurus in your 2nd house, so you have an appreciation of good food, even if that Saturn North Node conjunction has meant that finances has been a bit tough at times. And you also have the moon in the lovely Cancer. So you have Venus and the moon in the home zones of Taurus and Cancer respectively. So that means that they are in dignity, and that's wonderful. But you do have quite a powerful conjunction between Pluto and Uranus in your 7th house, along with Uranus. But there is a fantastic link between Mars and Mercury, Pluto and also Uranus. So I think you're someone with fantastic powers of interpretation. You can drill down into situations with great precision. You've definitely got a gift for relating to others, I feel. But the big news for you at the moment, without doubt, is that moving Pluto in the sky, the tiniest but most powerful of the outer planets, is exactly opposite your natal moon. So I think something's changing. The move in Pluto in the sky is just in your 12th house. It's just happened. It's going to wind back later this year in its retrograde back into your 11th house of your future and friendships. But then it goes back into the 12th house, and it's going to be there for a very long time. So all this year it is in opposition to the moon. So I would say that is creating some big issues around where you live, where you work, who you're really close to, and there may be some changes going on around those areas. So I hope that helps you, Tanya, gives you a little bit of a flavour. On your actual solar return, you didn't say where you live now, so I don't know if this would be accurate because you might not be domiciled in San Juan still. If you were living there, Saturn is very close to the moon in the 2nd house in Aquarius. So that will be intersecting in a right angle, that position of the moon, with that square between Saturn and Uranus. So, and for you, they're in your 5th house. I would be careful about being speculative with your resources. So whether it's someone close to you asking for some help, maybe a small loan or something, unless you can really afford it, I would be cautious, because with Saturn on the moon in your 2nd house, this is not a time to be too risky with the way that you invest in situations or people. But you do have Mars in that in the 7th house in the sign of Cancer in your solar return, which is where it is not at its best. It's in its full. So I do think there could be something going on around a deeply personal situation for you that may be that you're having to be a bit more assertive, Mars on the 7th house. I hope that helps you. It's been a real pleasure to read that for you. Now, if you'd like to sign up for your free daily horoscope directly to your device, please see the link below. If you'd like to have a one-to-one with Elisa, please see her testimonials below. We're going, hopefully, to be moving pretty soon, so there may be a time where we have to close down the booking form to allow us to move. We're still waiting for the date to be absolutely verified. Hopefully, we've got a provisional date. Hopefully, we'll find that in the next day or two. But thank you for all your support and kind messages about our move. It will be lovely to finally get there, and we will share some pictures once we're there. Thank you so much for our Patreons. We hope you've enjoyed the special personal updates we've given you. If you'd like to become a patron, please see the link below. You can do so from $3 a month. And finally, if you would like to find out what your natal horoscope is, you can do so for free by downloading your free birth chart below as well. So that concludes this show for this week. We hope you're keeping safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us. All your comments really spur us on. We're sorry we can't do the daily show at the moment. Someone said they didn't like this show. They thought it was a bit boring. Sorry. You'll have to try harder to be funnier, I suppose. Yeah, it's just time constraints for us at the moment. And, we've had a lot of lovely feedback about the weekly show. It does give us more time to expand on things with a bit more depth, if you like, which is more difficult. Because obviously when we were doing 31 a month, it took tremendous amounts of time up, because it isn't just filming them, it's kind of setting up the camera, getting the light right, making sure we got clothes and hair, and that's just me. And then you've got Lisa, bless her, goes and does all these amazing graphics afterwards. It takes so much time, and so unfortunately we haven't had a lot of time. But thanks for bearing with us. All the best from us both. So from Mrs. Arundell, it is
goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.